So apparently I'm an evil Depop reseller, and I want to get into it. I'm Ellie, and if you don't know, I am an American. I'm an American, okay? Don't ignore the accent. I am an American, I swear to God.
My pronouns are USA.
My pronouns are USA. How about it, huh?
And apparently I'm an evil Depop reseller while I'm at it. If you don't know who I am, I've only made $15,000 in 2024, and I've done a bunch of side hustles, and one of them includes being a ethical fashion content creator, okay? And I have $40,000 worth of loans, and I'm still trying to get a real job as we have a horrible job market.
Breaking just moments ago, jobless claim numbers are in. It's not good.
So like, I don't even know what a real job anymore is, but I reverted to Depop to find a real job, and oh, it has worked. As I've been trying to find more money to pay off all my loans, I have actually come across a lot of controversy and takes on Depop resellers and resellers in general that I really want to get into. I am using my notes. So let's get into the evil reseller myth. So there's this narrative that I've been seeing that Depop resellers are apparently having some sort of innate villain origin story when they come out of their mommy's their mom. And according to the internet, Depop resellers are apparently stealing from the poor. Like, I'm not poor myself. But basically the premise here is that people believe that resellers are buying secondhand, you know, they're cleaning it, they're listing it and shipping it, but it's all stealing, you know, it's theft. But I just can't really believe this, and I have to ask, like, who are we stealing from? How are we stealing? Is it from poor people? Is it just increasing the inaccessibility for like affordable things for poor people? Like, I just don't understand this idea that we're stealing from the poor. There's also this idea that we're gentrifying thrift stores and price gouging. From what critics have been saying online, apparently resellers are driving up demand at thrift stores because they're buying a lot and then pricing it up way too high on their sites. So I totally get that the prices may just be too expensive, too up there, okay, compared to what they bought it at, like, let's say a local thrift store. But to the point of saying we're gentrifying, I don't know, because like when I go to my local thrift store, I'm still Latina. I'm not magically turning white when I go to my local thrift store. And how do these thrift store owners know who we are? Do they know if we're out of town? Do they know if we're poor? Do they know that we are resellers? I don't think so. I just feel like the thrift store owners and just like strategy people who make the decisions for the business are just seeing that more and more people are buying from thrift stores, and because the rise in demand is increasing, they increase the prices with it. It's basic economic theory, okay? When demand goes up, you increase the price. Another thing that I've been seeing is that apparently resellers encourage overconsumption, and it's become normalized to see resellers as like an unethical person that just only cares about money, which I think the opposite is true, because I just think that resellers are simply trying to survive with the means that they have, and they see all this fast fashion and are simply trying to find some extra cash to survive the hellfire that we call society right now. I also think that a lot of people don't think the resellers care about their community or about social change, and maybe they're also seen as another person that is continuing the fast fashion cycle. And I know that fast fashion sucks, but I don't think resellers are the ones that have cause or is perpetuating the problem. So I just think they're getting a lot of undue hate. I have seen that a lot of people make the reseller out as someone that is supposedly trying to do good, but they're actually not trying to do good because they're making money from the problem, which I totally get in some way. This leads me to my other point that resellers are seen as profiting off of secondhand culture. So there's this belief that apparently resellers are commodifying a culture that's supposed to be about sustainability and access, and it shouldn't necessarily be about capitalism. So the vibe here that I've seen online is like, you're not recycling clothing, you're not part of the solution, you're actually flipping things for your own interest, and therefore you're evil, therefore you're bad. But let's get into my story, because I think context and nuance is very important, no matter if you think I'm a lazy, evil reseller. My background is that I've been broke my whole life, okay? If you're still watching this, I've worked part-time hustles, I've been working at thrift stores. I've only ever made $23,000 in 1 year, and I have 2 degrees, okay? I've worked in thrift stores. I actually worked in a thrift store in a tourist city near Yellowstone in Montana for 3 years. I've also been an assistant manager in Illinois in the thrift store that I actually go to every weekend now, because I moved back to Illinois because Montana was way too expensive. And just this experiences in itself showed me what back rooms look like. It showed me that most donations don't even reach the store floor. There's a lot of statistics floating around of like the percentages of how much was sold. Not a lot of it gets out there, okay? Not a lot. Also, I do want to note that it's extremely hard to have an entire like data algorithm of like what is selling and how it's selling in a thrift store. Like some thrift stores, when they're very small and very locally run, don't even put like a basic barcode label on their things. Like it's just like a price on there. So when the cashier is checking them out, they're simply on the register putting the prices and then being like, oh, it's 10 blah blah blah. So they have no idea what is sold when they're looking back on their records. They're just simply looking at the money. So this idea of like gentrification and price gouging, people don't have the data to credit that the reseller is part of the problem, that they perpetuated the rising costs and the rising problems within thrift stores and within the fashion industry. I also would say that people don't know who's buying at the store. So when a business owner is in the thrift store, they don't know if that person's poor, they don't know if that person's rich, they don't know if that's a gentrifier. Like we have no idea who is in that store. So to be like, oh, this person is causing this problem within a thrift store or within the vintage world, it's highly unrealistic, and it's based off of assumptions and very massive generalizations. And I also want to note that I source 90% of my stuff from the Goodwill bins. If you don't know what the Goodwill bins are, basically like huge warehouse outlets where they dump a bunch of clothing in bins and they charge per pound. And they're this close to being sent to the global south, where they literally are forced into contracts to take these dead white men's clothing. Also, American clothing is what it's known for, to the point where Chile is like, I don't want this anymore, and they're burning it because the quality is so bad, because they don't want this. They don't know what to do with it. And so I just want to note that I feel, in my perspective, that I'm rescuing clothing from ending up and colonizing the global south, because at the end of the day, these contracts are colonizing. They're forced upon vulnerable communities to take on our trash. And I feel like I'm the middleman to be like, no, let me stop this a bit, even with my 20 pieces a week, and be like, I believe I can make some good out of this and rehome these pieces that otherwise would have been burned in the global south. I'm just saying. And then let's get into the numbers, okay? So I spend about $100 every month on the finds that I have. I'm a very small reseller, okay? I just started this month, and I'm doing this video because I'm going to be fully transparent about my journey, and it's really rubbing me the wrong way that I'm called evil for my efforts to rehome vintage clothing. I also want to note that I don't spend most of my money on thrift stores. I don't. I go to the Goodwill bins. I only spend maybe like $10 to $20 at my local thrift stores, so I'm definitely not the gentrifier, okay? Even though I got the American shirt. And to make sure that you understand how much money I'm making, for my case at least, I spend about $1 per item because I go to the Goodwill bins, and I then am charged about $2 in fees on Depop to list my things, and then I spend about $1 in shipping and miscellaneous costs, and then in total that amounts to like $4 for each item. That's the cost, okay? $4 in cost. But after pricing and then selling, I probably only make about $7 to $8 on each thing. So if you like calculate that strategy, I'm gonna be selling so many things at a very low cost to maybe have a chance to make from $30,000 to $50,000 a year. And for most people that have 2 degrees and all those loans, that is very little. That is not an agreeable annual earning. But that's literally all I want to earn. I want to make from 30 to 50K. Literally, that's it. I remind you, I've only ever made $23,000 a year, so this would be huge if I'm able to make $30,000. I'm not going to get rich from selling vintage pieces, especially because I want to make things accessible and affordable so people can find really cool stuff at really good prices. So I don't really think that necessarily makes me evil or bad. So I just also want to talk about this idea that those that are doing a side hustle are just self-interested and just selfish and greedy, which is not true, because we have to pay bills. If we look at the rising cost of groceries, of rent, of car payments, of loans, we need 2, 3, 4 jobs, and sometimes being a reseller is the only option when no one else is hiring. I want a good life. I think everyone wants that's a good life. I have resorted to reselling not necessarily out of choice, but by force. It is a choice, obviously, to do all these things on a daily basis, but like if I could have a stable office job, I would take that gladly over reselling. But I've actually seen a lot of the positives in reselling. I'll get into that, but I do want to state my goals clearly and bluntly. Through my efforts, I just want to have my own studio. I want to have resources to take care of my mental health, to have groceries that nourish me versus like giving me more health problems. I want to have an axolotl fish. I love axolotl fishes. I want to have my own gray cat. Like, these are the simple things that I'm trying to achieve by reselling. It's all I've ever wished for. So I get so sad when I see all these like contentious critiques on the internet, because this is my real life that people are debating on. It's almost villainizing my efforts to have a way forward in life. But let's get into this moral gray area of reselling I've been kind of alluding to. Am I contributing to overconsumption? And to this I say maybe, okay? But I don't believe I can control people's shopping habits. I don't think that I can force people to not shop. I do think buyers have autonomy, and I do think that at the end of the day, I'm just giving them an option to give vintage and secondhand fashion a second or third or fourth chance. These clothing are incredibly old, and I think they're beautiful pieces that I'm offering. So if I can be part of the solution in sustainable fashion by giving them something that they hopefully will hold on to for years, I am happy with what I'm doing. But there is enough clothing to clothe the next 6 generations. I know that there is so much clothing in circulation, and it's really sad to see that we're drowning in fabric, we're drowning in textile waste. I don't really think I'm part of the problem necessarily as a reseller. I feel like maybe I am benefiting in some way from the issues in fast fashion, but I have not been the one that has perpetuated the cycle of overconsumption and overproduction in the first place. I am just someone trying to operate ethically within this messed up fashion industry. I also, in a way, gravitated to fashion reselling because it's an extremely flexible job. I really also don't like talking to people despite how I come across on the internet. Like, this is my way to connect with people. And also, my brain struggles to focus during 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., but any other time besides that, I'm like good. I'm different, okay? And so when I am able to resell, I have flexible hours where I can work around my other responsibilities. I do have a normal job and interviewing for other jobs. Depop reselling is probably going to be like my 3rd or 4th job, okay, mind you. Also, reselling doesn't require a boss. I'm not going to be micromanaged. I can do it when I want, how I want. I can be doing this in my room with internet connection, and that's really all you need. I think it's an amazing way to earn a living, even when it's unpredictable in how much you're going to make in a month. You never know what's going to sell and how much it's going to sell for. You can have some idea, but like at the end of the day, like it's a very unstable source of income. But it works because you're in your room, you're trying to figure things out on a daily basis. It's extremely challenging in some ways, but it is like rewarding because you can make a lot of money, again, from the comfort of your room. But yeah, I just really don't like that people are villainizing me, making me out as evil, especially when I've been an activist for the past 7 years and know what it takes to bring about social change and community care. And I simply don't believe that Depop resellers or resellers in general are part of the problem. I really don't. If you want to do good, let's phone bank, let's be part of unions and movements. Let's not villainize the people simply trying to survive, okay? You have to be looking for clothing, taking photos, organizing everything, and these are hundreds and hundreds of pieces if you're gonna actually make maybe like 2, 3, 4K a month. So in the big picture, it's a lot of work for very little reward. But for me, who has never made that much amount of money, it's incredibly exciting, and it's a lot for me to make. But yeah, I just don't get how individuals who, like me, are trying to operate with transparency and ethics are considered evil while everything else is just like accepted. I honestly think it's just easier to hate on people, like on women who are trying to make ends meet and are trying to question the system and trying to be part of the solution, but who at the end of the day didn't make the problem at all. Yeah, I want to close off on a good note. Handy dandy laptop over here will help me by saying that I am reclaiming my narrative, okay? It's very easy to be like, oh, like I'm part of the problem, I'm evil, so therefore I'm not going to do anything, and fall into doomism or like pessimism. But I'm choosing to say I am someone that's trying to rehome vintage clothing. I'm part of the solution. I'm going to the bins, I'm shipping items so people can end up loving fashion a bit more and holding on to pieces. That's what I hope so much. And I know I can't be perfect. I know I use fossil fuels within my car, within the shipping, packaging, the postal system, all that stuff. But I am trying to be low impact. But you can't expect me to be 100% perfect, to be 100% carbon neutral. That's not realistic on a person operating on systemic failures. If you're a hater, ask yourself, why do you hate me so much? Why do you hate me for trying to have a livable wage when capitalism isn't really functioning for the benefit of the individual? Most of the money that is being made by companies is going to the 1%. Why are you hating on me when the problem of fast fashion is a global, systemic, colonial, and capitalistic problem? We have enough clothing to clothe the next 6 generations. So if I'm the middleman, why am I being blamed for everything? And I do want to note that I am still anti-capitalist. Even when I have a Depop business, even when I have a business degree, even when I'm working, I am still anti-capitalist. I'm a moral socialist. I think society can and should work for the everyday person. I think democracy and capitalism have a lot of work to do right now, but I am simply trying to piece things together and trying to move forward in a world that is very, very broken, and I still have to survive in it. And I highly encourage you to support and push for policy change versus pushing more individuals that are just simply trying to survive. So get on board with more laws, join a local union, join a social justice group, do something that is part of the solution versus, hating on people. I know there's a lot of male resellers that are on TikTok doing some weird videos. Totally get it. Those people are weird. But most people are simply trying to recirculate clothing and to give another life to another clothing, even if they don't necessarily fully understand the issues in the fashion industry, even when they don't really care about sustainable fashion in an inherent way. But they're still part of the solution. So let me know what you still think about all this. Are you still a hater of resellers? Did I miss anything? But at the end of the day, I will continue to resell. I'm so sorry if I disappoint any of my watchers. I know y'all care about ethics and sustainability if you do watch my videos consistently, but I don't take brand deals. I don't have any sponsors. I don't make money from the content I'm making really, besides my Depop. So if you want to support, you can check my Depop. Or if you want to donate, I have a coffee account now that's down in the description. But until next time, peace and love, Ellie. Bye. Oof. I really wish I had a real axolotl. Gosh, I'm just an evil Depop reseller apparently.